6 hours long, I think. And at that moment, we were like, okay, we definitely have to see how this thing goes because we were having too much fun with the project. But Dominic has
Oh,
been making comics for longer
Yeah.
than I have.
Yeah.
okay.
I've been making comics for probably 8 9 years. I'm not sure if it counts that I would make like fan comics of fandoms that I'm fond of at the time. Because I would just like if there was a podcast I'd like Welcome to Night Vale, I'd make some fan comics based on that. So I'm not sure how that counts. But in terms of like an actual published like paper comic, this is our first.
Mm.
Um, and it's also our first time working together, as Kat said. So this is volume one. And definitely we had to do a lot of trial and error in terms of like um how to write the script, how to storyboard, and also managing a story that's longer. Like for me, I'm used to making comics, but they're usually in a shorter format.
Mm.
Um, so it's both like it's longer for me, this project, but for Kat, um because Kat comes from the literary like novel world, short story world. Um you can go for pages and pages and pages in novels, but our editor had to go like, no, you can only like go this far. So a lot of the trial and error had to do with like editing down the story, like figuring out where to go with the story, how many pages are left, how many pages to cut. Um, so it's a sort of like trial and error process. And now that we're doing volume two, which we're doing as we're waiting for volume one to release,
Right.
as we've finally gotten like more used to it, we've gotten like better momentum on how we do things, how to do things with each other, how each other works basically.
Mm.
So yeah, we've
Mm.
developed like a pretty solid dynamic on like how to turn the comic pages out in a more how do you call it?
Like
In a
efficient
more
way.
efficient, yeah, in a more
Yeah, yeah.
efficient way.
Yeah, I feel that because I think it's one thing when you're making like comics like personally and you're not that there's no rules, but you're just like okay, whatever I feel like I'll go with. But then it's different when you have like yeah an editor or publisher and you have a hard like limit. So I think for us, I think back to our first comic and which is Samurai Chef and we're self published which is why I'm also interested to hear about your journey through a publisher. But we had because we have an artist, so in terms of like budgeting and just time, because you can't go on forever, having a rough like hard limit, and it makes some interesting decisions because you can't just tell you. There might be a version of your story where it's double the amount of pages, but then because you've
Yeah.
got like yeah time budget you've got to cut, so I guess that's a hard decision. But I mean, before we get too into the details of the story, do you want to just tell us like what is the story, like what is Champion of the Rose? Can you give us the give us a pitch, what is this about?
Yeah, sure thing. So this is a manga slash graphic novel series coming out from Viz Originals, which is the original imprint of Viz Media, the English language distributor of Naruto, a lot of Shonen Jump titles, and Dragon Ball Z. A lot of our like childhood favorites. So it's been an amazing dream come true for us. And Champion of the Rose is a YA epic fantasy series inspired by the history of the Philippines under the Spanish colonial period. So we wanted to make something that Filipinos could see themselves in. We grew up with a lot of like Hunger Games and Game of Thrones, like adventure, fantasy, dystopia, sci fi, speculative fiction. And most of the time, we would only really see like white and European characters, straight characters, or if there were any like people of color in those types of stories, they would mostly be Japanese, really, because of anime and manga. So we wanted to translate our favorite genres and styles into something like Champion. So it's about a trans swordsman who becomes the champion of a princess whose hand in marriage is made the grand prize of her father's tournament. And she doesn't want any of that. So she hires her own dude to fight for her. And while it starts off kind of seeming like a Hunger Games style tournament for teens, we try to get into the weeds of anti imperialism and colonialism and how religion has been used to oppress countries for many, many years.
Mm.
We kind of want this to be like like the awakening that we wish we had when we were teenagers, because we grew up with so much um, Western media that pretty much brainwashed us when we were younger. And that's Champion.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So it feels very much a personal story for you both, at least the origins of the story. How do you make that? Because this is a like a worldwide release, right? So it's in different markets. Like, how do you make that relatable to people who like aren't from the Philippines? Do you think about that? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was something that we have constantly thought about since it's such a global project. Our publisher is based in San Francisco, but Viz is, uh, I guess, a sub corporation of a Japanese publisher. Um, but I think for us, it was really important to be honest about what we wanted to say, because we feel that when art is honest, the universality will come through anyway. I think the whole point of art is to express, human emotion and vulnerability and all that. So
Mm.
there were some things that we had to kind of balance. Like we had to always keep in mind what we wanted to say with the work. For example, we were very firm about wanting trans characters and queer characters, and there's a lot of Filipino and Spanish words in the book. So we were firm about wanting it to feel very multicultural. But we were also aware that, um, this is going to be read by people in different contexts. So we have translation notes at the back of the book. Um, the language is mostly in English, and I don't know how well it'll be received by people.
We
Hopefully
received well,
it'll.
don't worry.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
So,
we basically we did our best to balance all of that.
Okay.
um, so I've also been in another project that's very Philippines, like it's purely Filipino inspired. Because it's set in the Philippines, it's set in the high school of the Philippines. It's a game called Until Then.
Mm.
And we found that even if we released it into a worldwide audience, just the authenticity of like how we wrote it, how we created that world too, and just being genuine, basically, like being genuine in the story you're trying to tell, being not try not to be pretentious or anything, just speaking true to your experience or like true to yeah, true to your heart.
Mm.
Has like it surpasses boundaries because even in the game where we made like practically no attempts to, aside from making sure it's written in English, and until then we made not a lot of attempts to like pander to Western memes and such. Like a lot of our memes are like local memes that
Okay.
maybe only we find funny and might be like absolutely confusing to the rest of the world, but
Right.
it still like was received pretty positively despite just being like a very genuine Philippine experience, and people still found it like nostalgic, even though it's not true to like their lived experience because we were
Sure.
presenting like how our teenage lives were. I mean, American media has no problem reaching us as Filipinos, even though the life they present to us in movies is nothing like our own lives.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't see how like it would be a problem just like presenting this kind of world and it reaching a different audience. Because even especially for fiction, fantasy, and sci-fi, nothing about early like some parts of those worlds are parallel to the ones we have, but it doesn't have to be like one to one to be able
Mm.
to reach people, I feel. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
confident that the champion still has like a place in people's hearts. And it will strike people in different ways. Like I have some friends who connect with the protagonist, the trans protagonist. I have other
Mm.
friends who connected more with the religious themes that we were sharing. So it's really like, here's a story we want to tell. And I feel like it has a lot of points that people can connect with. And we wrote it in a way that's true to us, that's like genuine. So I feel like because of that, people will for sure find something to to connect with in our story.
Yeah, I feel that, and because I've had like discussions recently, and I know like Kat, we were planning to have you on a panel that didn't happen. Well, you couldn't make it, so we can touch on that as well. But and also recently did an article which I think it's out next month about representation and from a anime manga perspective. And
Mm.
as I was writing it, there's a thought that came to mind. I've had this thought before, but it's just interesting as I'm actually like having to write things down. Where if you look on the surface, like manga and anime is not actually that diverse in terms of like just surface level, but it's actually very diverse and inclusive because so many people, like you just explained, can connect with different either different scenarios, different aspects of character personalities, the types of characters that are like made as protagonists. And I feel like there's a gap there. There's a lot of space for people who are perhaps like yourselves, like me as well, outside of Japan, like using the medium in a way that can relate to different people while still telling an authentic story. And I feel that's
Mhm.
something that yeah I've haven't seen too much. So when I did come across like your work, it's like, oh, this looks very much like a manga, but it's definitely like I can see from like the blurb from what you just described, it's very much from a particular place. Have you personally that seen a lot of anime or manga outside of Japan that does that, or like, or do you feel like you're some of the first people to do that?
That's a fun question. We were talking about how anime and manga is so huge in the Philippines. So when we were growing
Mm,
up in like conventions and just hanging out with our friends in high school, people would be drawing their own manga. So
okay.
I think we've been surrounded by Filipino manga this whole time, but it doesn't necessarily always reach our bookshelves, for example, because sometimes they're on webtoons or
Right.
tapas or they're more kind of indie. There are a few that go into circulation, but yeah, there's not that many out in. There's not that much Filipino manga out on global bookshelves, at least.
Mm. Yeah, because when I
Yeah.
think anime manga, I'm obviously Japan, but I'm thinking like European as well. So yeah, it's cool. Was there something that you talked about your personal experiences or influences in the book, like culturally speaking? Was there anything outside of that that you had to learn to be able to write for this particular book without giving any spoilers, of course? But yeah, was anything that you had to like go and study or yeah, just learn more about to be able to include it in the work?
Oh my god, so much.
Mm.
Champion has been my heaviest research project ever. Honestly, it was more research heavy than my master's degree because I had to. Well, we both had to research a lot, but for my writing side, I had to look into the history of Spain and how they colonized not just the Philippines but other parts of Latin America and the Pacific Islands. So that meant doing a lot of archival research, a lot of research into how the Spanish colonization is represented in media,
Mm.
to make sure that we were paying, tribute to the people who survived that time as best we could. And I also had to learn a bit of Spanish. So I had
Okay.
to do Spanish research, Filipino research, but also from the manga craft side, I had to do a lot of learning for script writing in the manga medium. But Dominic did pretty much as much research as I did, I think. So we were just in the trenches with this project, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how about yourself, Dominique? What kind of research did you have to get into?
Oh, like looking for basically having a giant image library of armor in different angles from this specific place at this specific time. Um, like, oh, here's this hat that the guards used to wear at the time, and here's that hat in different angles. Here's a hat from like a higher ranking police officer, and here's it in different angles. So weirdly enough, it's a lot of like auction photos, like people auctioning off historic objects,
Ah, okay,
and
okay.
because they're trying to auction it off, they try to shoot it in like all these
Yeah,
different
display it
angles.
and
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so weirdly enough, those have been more. informative than museum photos because museum photos tend to be just like one really good picture, but it doesn't
Right.
rotate. So yeah, it's a very like that's I think strangely enough, the auction places do have more historic like really good reference pictures for historic places. But we also had some like dead ends basically when we were trying to research a certain thing. Because originally we wanted to have champion in a specific time period. So it was like 16th century was the original like idea of it. Now we had to like stretch the timeline because we didn't find enough image material basically in that specific time period for the Philippines. Because that's the period when they were actively like colonizing us, like um taking over our culture basically. So possibly a lot of that information basically got wiped by the colonizers, by the Spanish probably, while they were taking over. And I'm sure there's like material of it somewhere. There's like bits and pieces of it scattered. I'm sure I found a couple, but usually it's written accounts, which is hard if you're trying to draw something. Like written
Right.
accounts of what the texture is like or like what the things they wear are. Um, so we had to basically stretch the timeline so that we had more references to work with, basically, specifically for the Philippines. But yeah, basically that's
Okay.
how that went.
And
Yeah,
how
another
long is
thing
this?
that we
Oh,
oh, sorry, my bad.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna cap that section off by sharing that we also consulted with a lot of sensitivity readers and consultants for this book, because there were certain things that we could not learn or master in the time that we had,
Sure.
and one of that was Philippine martial arts. So we have a lot of like fight scenes and choreography where we consulted a real martial artist. We also consulted with a tattoo expert of pre-colonial culture in the Philippines, so that a lot of the tattoos that we use, they're not the same as real life Philippine tattoos, but they're inspired by it, um, as best as we could. And we also consulted Latin American historians. So yeah, lots of research in
Wow.
this book.
And because you said you've been working on this story for like since you were a kid, right? So then this level of research and sensitivity readers, is that things that you did after getting a publisher? Is that something with their support that they were able to bring in to help the process?
Yes, they were able to help us with some of the consultants.
Right. Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking, because we got a story that we're working on at the moment, and it's been in the back of my mind or in loose bits of paper for like for ages now. But started to do like the world building and trying to get my head around how much world building do you need to do? Because you mentioned Game of Thrones earlier, and we've got like George R. R. Martin, who's I think still working on the
Yeah.
last book, and so I imagine he's got
Fingers
like
crossed.
fingers crossed. Yeah, yeah, he's got tons and tons of pages somewhere, but I guess suppose in his mind it's like it's not quite there. He needs to do more or whatever the reason is. But then let's say you got a news story. How much world building did you feel you had to do? Because you can go forever with that. When is enough in terms of like the culture of the place, especially if it's a fictional world, the people, the politics, the religion, if that's in there. Yeah, how much do you feel is enough world building? When was the point where you said, all right, now we gotta make the story?
I gotta be completely honest. For me, I could go on forever. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
yeah.
up to me. Do I have a deadline this month or not? um, but I think for me, learning not to over research has taken a lot of time and practice. Usually, I know when to stop if I have everything that I feel I need for the scene. If the scene works in a way that feels right and authentic, it's kind of an intuitive thing for me at this point. But I do try to research as much as possible so that the story has enough fuel to keep going. Champion is a very history inspired book, so without the history, there kind of is no fuel for the story. Um, but yeah, I don't know about you,
Okay.
Dominic. When do you know when to stop when you're illustrating. Also, sorry, my dog is knocking on my door.
Oh, okay.
Actually,
Okay.
It's okay.
sorry, but
That's cool.
Um, that's the thing. I think it depends really per author based on the timeline they get and also the timeline they give themselves on when to stop. Because really, you could just stop based on like things that the character sees or like things that the character interacts with or is interacted by.
Mm.
Um, but then that also extend to like, well, they're affected by the the economics of the country
Yeah,
they live
yeah.
in. So
So what
how
does that look
detailed are you
like?
gonna make?
Yeah,
Yeah, how detailed are you gonna make the economics? So yeah, it honestly depends on how much time you give yourself and how much time basically your publisher gives you or
okay.
like the other stopping points of the project. That's kind of why there's a thing between creatives where they keep trying to make something perfect instead of just like, okay, this is good enough,
Mm.
have it.
Yeah,
And I think that's like something we all have to learn at some point, and that extends to like trying to world build. Because you can make a really, really like detailed world, but at the end of the day, that'll just be like for you. Like you won't be
yeah,
able to share it if you just keep building and building. Um, so basically, at some point, and it depends on the author, like when they say it's enough, but at some point it should be enough. I'm sure the
mm.
Dune author has like so would go on forever. I have no idea how long it took to research all of Dune or to like
Oh yeah,
world
yeah,
build all
yeah.
of that because that's so dense. It's so
Yeah,
dense, but
very dense. But then you do feel it, and I feel it's a hard one to judge, and there's no exact answer. But as we're working on this story in the background, so we went from like loose idea, and it's in this like mega city with different districts. So then we had to think about what's the different environments. So we kind of mapped it loosely on like different areas around London, and then it was like what's the shape of the map. So we had to go look at the shape of the map. There's a whole political angle, so we had to go and look at like the politics. In fact, that's still not completely done, so that's something to look at the history of that, how each present day character is impacted. Yeah, and as we're going through this, it's like, yeah, we could just keep going. So I think I guess that's the benefit of you say, Kat, having a deadline, having a publisher, because I imagine at some point the publisher said like this is going to come out in this period, and then we've got to get everything ready. So, you said it's the first work you've done, so first published work you've done together. So you've got the dual thing of like working together and then also working with a publisher. So if we take the working together, like what is your process like? Who does what, and how do you work together to bring out a single story? And I'm eager to hear the response because so like we do a lot of workshops with young people who might be into comics. We do like game design ones, but if I think about the comics, and one of the key things that I see keep coming up is a struggle for we're talking sometimes as young as 8, but maybe even 15, 16, 17, like 18. I struggle to work together work with other people. So someone's got an idea and I just don't want to hear other people's ideas. So how do you both work together, and particularly when it comes to differences of opinion creatively?
um, my dog. So sorry. My dog is knocking on the
Oh,
door. So
yeah.
is it okay if I go take care of her for a
Oh,
second?
okay, yeah.
Uh,
Dominique, do you want to start
okay,
off?
I guess I'll
Yeah,
take over.
yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
So
Oh, we
basically
lost the.
right now, oh,
Hold on, what
oh
we'll do?
yeah, we lost the feed.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll let deal with the dog, and then we'll come back in a moment. Cool. All right, so we are back. So we're just talking about the process, the creative process, working together, and yeah, how you both do it. So I'll be interested to hear like what your roles are, and then how you deal with yeah creative differences, just challenges along the way. I don't know if like Dominique, do you wanna get us started?
Oh, so usually what happens is Kat does the script, does the research for basically the parts of the story that they want to include, puts it in the script, and then we go through the process of making storyboards. So it's like tiny frames of basically how the panels will be laid out depending on like what the script is, and putting all of the word bubbles inside the page just so that both the writer and the artist and the editor has a clear view of like, is this too much words for a single page, and so on. Should we cut it down? Which parts should we edit? Which parts should we exclude? And so on. And then after we're done with storyboarding, usually they edit the. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we
That's
are
fine.
dog people.
We do, yeah. Usually it's cats. Usually
Usually
cats
it's
are
cats.
the yeah. We've got a we could do a whole, we haven't done this, but we could do a whole blooper reel of cats interrupting. But today it's the dogs. So
Yeah, I think cats would knock the
they
microphones
knock stuff
over and
in.
everything.
They walk across camera shots as well. So yeah. But sorry, you were saying.
That'd be fun to
Yeah,
watch.
uh, I think I have to. I think Kat can continue the answer maybe while
Okay.
I try to calm them down better.
No worries. I think this is a pretty good example of how we work together. We are quite like collaborative. We make try to make sure that we're doing okay and that our dogs are all right. Um,
Mm,
yeah, we've been working together for a long time, but um, when we're going along that process of moving from text to art, we start, as Dominic said, we start with script, then storyboards, then pencils, then inks, then tones. Um, Dominic honestly does so much work because art is a very physically intensive form of labor, and that is really amazing. Um, but we both try to collaborate with each other on every step. So even when I'm writing the script, I'll often message Dominic asking, "Hey, does this character dialogue sound funny enough to you? Like, does this make you laugh?
right.
If it does make you laugh, then we'll put it in." Or I'll ask Dominic about certain characters because he has some favorites that he really loves. One of them is this conquistador named Aguilar. I won't say much about him other than he's drawn with a lot of love. Like Dominic cares so much about this character. So whenever I'm writing any scene with him, I always ask Dominic, "How is this doing?" And I think that's why on the cover of Champion, we've decided to call ourselves just Kat Aquino and Dominic Duran. We didn't put written by and illustrated by. I think it's because we um,
Ah,
give a lot to each other in both the writing and the art stage. So that's kind of how we collaborate. It's very synergetic, I guess.
okay. All right. Yeah, I did notice that on the cover. So that's an intentional choice. To okay. So then when it comes to so it sounds like it's a very much a back and forth. I mean, it's always back and forth, but in particular because you're checking in with each other at different stages. Oh, sorry, at each stage as you go. Um, okay, that's cool. So then it sounds very fluid in terms of like I guess
Yes.
do you find a lot of changes are being made along the way? Like how other than yourselves, and you mentioned sensitivity writers, are you getting a lot of feedback from other people? Because I know you are an editor as
Mhm.
well. But I guess you have an editor for
Yes.
this, and then yeah. So what are the other voices and like collaborative voices in the process?
So yeah, first we do have our editor, who is this amazing person called Julia Patrick at Viz, and she listens to us bounce ideas, and she's always like our first reader. But sometimes we share our ideas with Champion with some very close trusted friends, and for me, my partner has helped a lot. So yeah, it's a very like small group of beta readers, I would say. But our very first readers are each other
Mm,
and our editor Julia.
okay. Oh, nice. And because as I hear people talk about the publishing process, it sounds
Mhm.
like it does. do you find it takes a lot of stress out of, if not, or maybe the making process, but then because once you make it, you've got to then sell it essentially. And
Yeah.
like, what do you find has been the benefits or the expected benefits of having this publisher behind the work that you're doing, and what are some of the maybe unexpected challenges of having a publisher behind the work that you're doing that you've had to adapt to?
I think some of the benefits for sure is having our amazing editor with us. She's very, very thorough, and she's taught us a lot about the craft of making manga. Um, Viz Originals, as an imprint, works with, I don't know if you've heard of the uh, Bakuman manga, the
Mm.
one about the Death Note creators and how, and then they made a manga about people
Is it the
making manga.
yeah yeah? I haven't read it, but I know it's the manga about making manga. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So the editor in that manga is now one of the head editors at Viz. So he's uh,
Ah.
helped move a lot of manga craft from Japan into the US, and that's trickled down on to us from our editors. So I think we've learned a lot about the craft from that. It's been amazing, like thinking about how um, you can't have too many panels on a page, for example, because in Western graphic novels, the trim size is a much larger. But with manga, it's in black and white. You have to think about like size and everything.
Mm.
So 7 panels is already considered a lot in manga. So we learned all that stuff from Viz, and I think that kind of like discipline was really helpful to learn. But we also are very happy that we have a publisher helping us with distribution because sales and distribution into the U.S. and the UK and the Philippines and other countries where we're going to be sold. Like I can't imagine doing that on my own. So it's nice to have that. But for challenges, because it is quite a big, high stakes project, I think
Mm.
there is of course a lot of like pressure. I think that we feel often because we want to make this the best that it can be. But we feel like the benefits kind of outweigh the pressure of
For sure.
um, hoping a book will do well,
Fair.
essentially.
And how did you go about that process of acquiring a publisher? So, like, recently spoke to Shadleen Khan, so as the episode 47, which people can check out, and they talked about the being self-published, and then a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, the extra, other than creating the comic, you've got the sales, distribution, all that things. And they were talking about like Kickstarter campaigns and managing that, and just taking on too much and needing to offload. So they talked about the process of getting a publisher. So what was that like for you? I'm interested to know at what point did you decide we need a publisher for this, or did the opportunity come to you? And then what was that process of going from, okay, we've got this idea that I've been working on for ages, and now we've got a publisher who's helping us bring it out into the world?
Oh, I think that was a journey for us. Like that was a whole adventure. When I first started ideating on Champion, I'd always wanted it to be published just because that was a childhood dream of mine as a kid. But it was when I spoke to Dominique and we were speaking on that very long Skype call that we realized that we really, really wanted this to be as high quality a graphic novel as possible. And for that to happen, we would need funding and support from a
Mm.
publisher, ideally abroad. So we already had that um, goal in mind when we started because unfortunately, a lot of local Philippine publishers don't pay great advances. They're quite small. Um, so yeah, we had that in mind when we started. So we prepared a pitch document that had around 8 pages of the proof of concept of the book,
Mm.
including a full synopsis of the entire series. So we like planned out the whole series in advance already, and then we were prepping that, and we saw this online Twitter contest called DVPit, which I think is still ongoing now. But it's basically like an online pitch event where people can um, show what they're working on to agents and editors, and then the agents and editors can like the tweet, and then that's an invitation for you to go straight into their query inbox. Like you don't have to like have a long waiting time to hear a response from a literary agent or a
Right.
publisher. and yeah, which are like huge gatekeepers for the publishing industry. So it's really nice that there was that kind of accessible thing for people around the world. So that was, I think, in October 2020. It's in Blue Sky now, so it's moved from Twitter to over there.
Mm.
But we had a lot of eyes on the project in October 2020, and then in November 2020, we signed with our literary agent, Paloma Hernando, and she helped us workshop Champion for a while to like make the story better, refine what we wanted to do with the characters, and eventually we sent it out on submission to a couple of publishers. Originally, it was a full color graphic novel, so we submitted to a couple of big publishers. But then, when Paloma had the idea of like, what if we turn this into a manga? She submitted it to Viz, and that's how we got an offer from Viz. It was thanks to our agent, who thought that Champion would
Right.
work as a manga.
So initially, it wasn't necessarily going to be a manga.
No.
Ah, that's
No, the
interesting.
original idea was like a colored graphic novel of like 4 volumes. Um,
Mhm.
Right.
so yeah,
Okay.
it changes quite a bit since then.
Yeah. And so then, because on the topic of like, so working together and the differences there and how you do that. So for you both, and maybe Dominic, you can start in terms of, because then that's like external voices as well. And I know as creators, like you make a work, especially if you've been working on it, it's been in your head for a long time, and then other people start inputting on what it could be like. How do you deal with like feedback, criticism from like external, like forgetting yourselves, external voices? Because obviously that's a thing as you make something and put it out into the world. Like, how do you respond to feedback, constructive criticism, or just criticism in general?
I think um usually there's two things about it. Usually I try not to be as like an overview. I try not to be too precious about the designs and decisions I make visually.
Mm.
Like, oh yes, all of this can be changed, but there's also that thing where you have to find which parts you're not gonna budge on, or like just making sure everyone knows like this character has to have tattoos. Okay. Like there's some parts that we had to push back on our editor from like, oh, they wanted to remove like certain scenes, like, oh, do we really need that much detail in this scene?
Mm.
um and basically like finding those parts to be like, actually, like, we do need to like keep this, like, I think it's really important to the story. But basically choosing your battles, I guess, is like the
Yeah.
is the long and short of it. Is like, is this
Yeah.
really something that you want to have like a 5 day discussion on, or can we just change the hair color to something less
And right.
saturated?
Fair.
Because like, does it have to be that vibrant blue, really? Like, are we really gonna have this discussion about it? Because of course, like, it's in a timeline, and of course we don't want like the thing that keeps us from progressing to be like just one of these small decisions that you can just like sweep under the rug. But
Mm.
there's also some parts that if you feel like it's necessary for the story you want to tell, or it's necessary for your theme or the final message. Like, I remember one of our discussions in volume one was like, Kat really wanted this discussion between Ray and his boyfriend near the end, like in the last chapter. And we're like, and our editor kind of wanted to give that space to somewhere else, but Kat really wanted to push like, no, they have to have like this final confrontation, because they do really have like different ideologies at this point, and we need to make that clear, and we need to make sure they communicate. And I'm glad we kept that in. But basically, like, that you have
Mm.
those kinds of discussions with the editor. But sometimes the editor just goes like, "Can we just cut this character? Like, do we need to have a close up on this side character that doesn't have a character arc this season and only has like 2 lines? We don't need that close up."
Okay.
And we have to go like, okay, yeah, you're
Fair
right.
enough. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that, yeah, yeah. It's like we like that character, hence we wanted that close up, but that character doesn't have any lines. That like, we're not even sure if the reader would remember who that character is at that point. So like, yeah, let's give it the close up to like someone else, someone more important, or like
Mm.
let's make the panel bigger and like remove his reaction. Um, so yeah, basically like choose your battles. Not everything has to be precious, but also Um, like really be picky about the ones you want to
You
push
do,
for.
yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I think that sort of creative conflict does help, like in your own mind, it will help you decide, like, say, do I care about this or how much do I care about this? I've definitely had
Yeah.
that before. Also, Rosa Starlight in the chat just said they love your headphones and the strawberries on the side
Yes.
of the Frog Eyes. So shout
Me
out,
too.
shout out to there. And so we're almost out of time. But one of the things I did want to get to before we get to our bonus, quickfire bonus round, is just your inspirations. I mean, you talked about within making this particular story, like cultural, religious research that you've had to do, but just as creators, where do you get your inspiration for stories for characters from? Do you I, I imagine, but or don't want to make the assumption you read manga, watch anime, but
Yeah.
film, TV, other animation as well. Like what like sparks you like inspiration wise?
Kat, you go first.
Okay, yeah, for me, yes, manga and anime for sure. My favorite manga slash anime of all time is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and I get really,
Mm,
really excited whenever people tell
yeah,
me that they see that champion.
arguably
Because
the best anime manga. Yeah,
yes, honestly, for me, yeah, I love it so much. Um, but I also get a lot of my ideas from traveling. So I like to explore a lot and walk and just wander around. And I find that a lot of my ideas come from that. But also, yeah, just books in general. Books are great. I feel like I'll never be bored in my entire life. There's always something really cool to see in
yeah,
books and outside of them.
yeah. I feel that. I feel that. What about you, Dominique?
Um, so I have like a bunch of manga here I'd recommend. That I can pull out one by one. But one of the things that's inspired me, at least one of my main inspirations for I think the fight scenes at least, is I used to go partying a lot. And I didn't see a lot of fights. Seriously, it's not because I saw a lot of fights. It's because I'm really familiar with like I'm really comfortable with like how the body moves or like finding rhythms in stuff is something I find very fun.
Right.
So basically like choreographing the fights like it's a dance. So there's like beat per beat of each thing that happens.
Mm.
Um, so that's one of my inspirations that isn't just nerdy stuff. But for the nerdy stuff, I like Vinland Saga a lot.
Oh
Vinland
yeah.
Saga, I think, what is one of the things I look at to look at like how did they draw this thing? And I think it's Vinland Saga and Bugle Call that showed me like the shortcuts when you're trying to draw a giant army. Basically, like if there's gonna be a ton of detail on the page, I tend to like peer into like really close to the page, like how much detail is in the characters that are really far away that they can get away with
Mm.
without making it look like a mess. So that's like two of my inspirations for the fight scenes. The, there's like
Mm.
Witch Hat Atelier, but Witch Hat Atelier has this special place in my heart where it gets me frustrated reading it because I'm like, why can't I be this good? Why can't it's
Oh
like one of
yeah.
those
Yeah.
inspirations that make you kind of it makes you
Annoyed.
kind of angry because you
Yeah.
love it's so good and you're
I
like
want to do that.
I I wow how
Yeah.
did you do this? Like how much time did it take you to do this? So I try to read Chat Atelier is the thing. I
Okay.
have like random volumes, not in proper chronological order. I just get what's available on the bookshelf because I can't seem to immerse myself in the story enough because I just keep getting annoyed. Like it's too good. It's too good. It brings you out of the story
Okay.
because I just keep getting frustrated at myself mostly of like how good the illustrations are
Mm.
and I end up analyzing the illustrations instead of letting myself be absorbed by
Just
the
enjoy
story.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've definitely done that
but
where
it's
I'll watch
yeah,
something and it'll be like, oh, I want to be able to do just like that, and I can't
yeah.
quite yet.
Like it's one of those things where you have to stop reading it or stop watching it and you just have to stand up going like God,
Yeah.
why?
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely feel that. Definitely feel that. I
yeah.
had that
So
with
there's
Oh no, I had that with many things, but I remember thinking that with Arcane, watching
yeah.
Yeah.
Arcane, and just thinking like I mean, so I'm a writer. I don't draw. We have an illustrator on the team, but just narratively, the way the story's done, the way the characters are, just like each character has a foil for them and sort of pairs. But that's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
storytelling. I need to study that. So I totally feel that. Actually, I just want to mention one
Yeah.
quick thing before, because I
Yeah, of
talked about
course.
the London book fair, that we had a panel about manga, and particularly sort of manga as a way to connect with younger audiences, and in an environment where like publishing generally, from what I've seen, is not necessarily, what's the phrase, well versed in manga, and I feel can be seen as a stereotype. Like they might see like big eyes and particular drawing style and feel like that's it. So we did have this panel earlier in the year, but see, Kat couldn't make it, unfortunately. So I thought I'd throw to you in terms of just manga in general. Like, why do you think it does connect with younger readers so much? I mean, you can both like give your opinion, but start with Kat, because I've noticed, I mentioned we do workshops where as soon as I mention like I make manga, different opinions will come out, people will get excited, and you just see the difference and how it engages them. But why do you think that is for manga in particular?
I think with manga, um, reaching back into the recesses of my memory as a kid, I remember manga and anime being the few mediums that I had as a kid where they were for kids, but they wouldn't dumb things down for kids. Like I remember watching Voltus 5, which is this like old mecha sci-fi, and it was about galactic war and straight up like kids battling in mechs. And I remember thinking like, how come the rest of my books and picture books don't have like blood in them, anything like that? Like I think manga and anime introduced me to so many like explorations of questions that I already had as a kid, and to also have it in like in a very fun visual style was always exciting, and I think that's always
Mm,
going to appeal to kids. I think young people want to be spoken to, uh, as equals. Um, I think there is a case for like filtering what kids can read and watch, because sometimes things are inappropriate for them. But I think when it comes to the discussions that anime and manga provide, especially in like a serialized exciting form in shows and comics, like it's an amazing field for that. But what
mm,
about you, Dominic? What do you think?
I think the thing is, in the Philippines, there's cartoons, right? There's cartoons, and then there's teen dramas, and there's no in between. There's nothing like, because when you're a teenager, usually it's either you consume like adult content or you consume like teen drama, and there's not a lot of, or at least back in my day, there wasn't a lot of like things to fill the in betweens, and so anime, even like anime just became that thing that had so much genre, so many different genres in it. Like there's isekai, there's fantasy, and it has these teenagers, and it's not a teen drama. It's like an action
mm.
movie. There's like people dying, people like betraying each other. When I was a kid, it was
People
mind
failing.
mind boggling that Sasuke
Yeah.
like betrayed Naruto, and Naruto was like one of the really big animes when I was a kid, because we have this Filipino dubs here in the Philippines of like they dub anime. And it's really like corny. In Pinoy, corny is baduy. So it's kind of baduy, but I love it so much. It has like a special place in my heart. Because I feel like it introduced not only me, but so many Filipinos to anime and manga. Um, because even across socioeconomic classes, a lot of people are into Naruto or are into One Piece. One Piece is still so big in the Philippines.
Yeah, it's big everywhere.
Because
That's
the dubs is
Yes.
like the dub really helped cross the line to like um basically mass consumption, where even
yeah,
if you don't know
yeah.
how to speak English, um you know that One Piece kicks ass. So I'm sorry, sorry.
we
But yes.
we can allow that. We can.
Yes.
In the donkey sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yes.
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Shrek and Donkey. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Shrek and donkey.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. No, I totally agree, and that's definitely something I will always want to share and hopefully people pick up on. So, all right, we're at the final quick fire or quick-ish fire round. So this is something I like to throw on people and it gets quite introspective. So it's all around the idea of how storytelling, or in my opinion, storytelling maps onto real life. So last few questions, and because there's two of you and because you work together, or you can answer them like we're gonna make a story. You're gonna make a story together with these quick fire rounds. So you ready? We're gonna end this here. So the first question
Sure.
is: as you're both protagonists of your own story, what would you say are your standout character attributes?
ADHD.
Okay, that
I'm
works.
short.
Sure.
I'm 4'11". So
Okay.
it's Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Sorry.
Okay, all right. So we got short protagonists and sort of ADHD in there. All
Yeah.
right, nice. We're building that picture. In most stories you've got like an antagonist or forces of antagonism. What would you say for your characters in this story? What's your main challenge, and how do you both work together to overcome it?
Okay. So my main challenge is time management, but it's also when I find someone that I perceive as a rival, which is very anime. But I get
That
I
is
get
very
very
anime.
fired up. Like I have to like I can't have something that's subpar to what they're doing. Um
Okay, I
so
feel
that's
that.
my version of an antagonist, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that. What about you, Kat?
Cat?
Mine is also time management.
Mm,
So that's fine.
okay.
So yeah.
All right.
Usually
Well.
what we do is we check in with each other like Cat, how's that?
Mm,
Cat
Yeah.
Julia's looking for this, or like Cat messages me like Dominic Julia's looking for this, so we kind of like try to balance each
It's a
other, keep each other
yeah.
accountable. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
you have to keep each other accountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And
We're a
who would you
team.
say, maybe other than each other, who would you say are the biggest supporting characters on your journey?
Our editor Julia and our assistants. We have a few. We have Cal. We have Jat, Pepe, and JJ.
Cool. All
Yes.
right.
I thought you were gonna say JJ. His birthday was yesterday.
Yes, JJ is my partner. So yeah, he
Okay.
helped us
Yeah.
as well.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Good supporting cast
Yeah.
there. And lastly, where is your journey going? What does success look like for your protagonist in your story? What would you say?
I want to keep making graphic novels. I think I've already done it most of my professional career, and I want to keep going. I want to keep making stories. I keep want to making covers. I
Mm.
think it's a ton of fun, and I want to make more. What about you, Kat?
I'm the same. Graphic novels and books, like novels for me, I think.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's it. And final. Where can people get the book when is it out? Where can people get it? Yeah. Let us know.
It's on pre-order at Waterstones, Foils, Forbidden Planet, Blackwell's, and other indie bookshops in the UK. So if anybody wants to pre-order it, you can go to your local bookshop. But it'll be out in the UK on August 13th. So a
Cool.
month
Yeah.
after the 14
July.
release.
Okay.
We're excited because everyone's gonna love it. So far, the reviews
Nice.
have been really good, so we've been really excited. Now I'm just like excited for it to get into the hands of like more people because I know
Yeah.
they're gonna love it so much.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, no, thank you for sharing more about the story and the process behind it with us today. So, yeah, make sure once we got like I think we've got your like press stuff. We'll share it at the time as well. Help spread the word where we are. So thank you both for joining. Before we wrap up, just want to give a shout out to Programmers Group UK, who provide us with different equipment that we use for live streams and events, like our microphones, our Streamplify lighting, Streamplify mics, the chair, Natural Concept chair that I'm sitting on. So we use that for our live streams. We use it for workshops. We let kids run loose. I say kids, like teenagers, run loose on how to make their own podcast. We use it for I Do I Look Like a Gamer games diversity campaign events, and that all helps us essentially create more better, more experiences for our community. And yeah, very like grateful for them to be providing that for us. And yeah, that is our episode. So make sure, if you haven't already, join our Discord. We're making some changes over the year, so you can join that, check that out, chat with us and the team there as we continue making changes and build that community. We've got another live stream coming on Thursday, which people can join us for. You can also catch us on Twitch and YouTube, where we stream our live stream shows both there, and then they stay on YouTube, so you can catch them afterwards as well. And we also have the Story X Story podcast, where if you are into hours-long conversations about different stories across pop culture, you're welcome to join us and there. Maybe at some point we need to have you both there for like deep dives. We just did I don't know if either of you have seen All You Need Is Kill, but we did an episode on the anime of that will come out at some point this month. So different conversations there. But that is it for another episode of Casual Conversations with Comic Creators. Thank you everyone for listening, whether you're watching live, watching later, listening. Thank you both Kat and Dominique for joining. I've been Nigel, and yeah, we'll see you again next time. Take care everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.